world changes, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us what we sometimes forget. But it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
So good evening, everybody. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our web chat this evening. My name is Happy Ngidi. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Proudly South African. It's great to have you online with us this evening. I see there's quite a few people that have joined us already. I must start off, though, by apologizing that we unfortunately ran into technical problems, but we seem to be okay now, so please bear with us. We apologize profusely. Sorry that we are starting a little late, but we are here now, and I do have, I guess, online, so it would seem that I am the rose amongst the thorns, because I've got two gents with me as our guests this evening, and I've got Ismail. Can we please have Ismail on screen to say hello to us? Ismail is from Brave Group. He represents Brave Group, and our second guest is Siseki, who represents Open Field Marketing. So good evening, everybody. Great to be here. Hello, Ismail. There you go.
Hey, how you doing?
There you go.
Hi, Happy.
Hello there. Great to see you. Great to see you. See, I'm wearing my glasses because I'm able to see you proper.
The glasses add a certain flair. I think you're gonna do some great things there. I have faith in you, Happy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for hitting the call and accepting our invitation to join us this evening to chat about all things lekker, right? And all things proudly South African. We do have a bit of people that I'm going to appreciate that, you know, the team that is behind the scenes is not off the platform completely. Ordinarily, if this webinar, we would say, please mute yourselves and get off screen, but it would seem that you have to jump off completely because the feedback is very bad, which sounds okay now. I think somebody got off, which is fantastic. So guys, so thank you so much for joining us this evening as we kick off this local is lekker conversation. So you did see the commercial that we played just now. It's a current campaign that we are doing at Proudly South African, generic, because it speaks to everybody, every South African. It doesn't, irrespective of where you may be in the country. And listen, so I'm sure you agree that we could have chosen an amazing South African to tell our story for us, right? Anybody, any takers? In the likes of Dr. John Gunny, by the way.
Yeah. You couldn't have chosen any better.
No, John's amazing. I think he's an icon.
Listen, he's an international icon. Our very own Waganda.
Yeah, I keep talking to people, and the thing that comes up when we talk about John Kanye is everyone says he's Africa's answer to Morgan Freeman, but I think I think John Kanye himself would probably say that Morgan Freeman is the American John Kanye.
Absolutely. Let me tell you this now. I think everything that we invented earlier on was back on. So please, colleagues from Proudly South African, I'm going to have to uninvite you. I really am going to have to uninvite you. Yes, so don't step back on because we will catch you. And you're right. And so Ismail, let me tell you. So Dr. John Kani, for those of us who've worked with him, I know for sure that he's that kind of guy who would say that. He would say that, no, Morgan Freeman is the American version of John Kani. Let me tell you what he says. He says when he was filming The Lion King, he was in studio with the likes of Beyonce. You can imagine, I mean, that cast is amazing for a few months. And he says when he got back home, when his grandchildren got to understand the magnitude of The Lion King, and they said to him, "Oh, granddad, where's your picture with Beyonce? I mean, how do we know for sure that you were on set?" And you know what his response was? And he's not apologetic, right? He said to his grandchildren, "Oh, well, Beyonce didn't ask me for a picture."
You can't accuse Dr. Kani of being immodest.
Yeah, fair enough. So I want to get straight into the campaign. It is called Game Time. It's called Game Time. And if you like, it speaks directly to the president's last announcement 3-4 weeks ago when he announced the country's economic recovery plan. And I remember, at the end of his announcement, he said, "South Africa, it is time, inago," and which speaks directly to what we are saying in Game Time. We are saying the time is now for South Africa to revitalize its economy. And I'll tell you, which is where you come in. So we worked very well with the Good Group who gave life to the message. We gave them the message and the concept, and we said to them, please give it life. And it was on the back of the soccer analogy. When, and I'm going to throw a spanner in the works with Kaizer Chiefs and Pirates play. Okay, maybe I shouldn't use that.
Who do you support?
Yeah. Well, love and peace. But I know I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I've been in trouble for the longest time. But when
you can say both proudly South African teams.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Exactly. they're both proudly teams. But when teams play, and the one team is behind, where and then they go to in a tough time, and they go to the changing room. We all know that the coach of the team that is not doing well will go in there and say, lads, guys, something has to give. We've got to go back onto that pitch, and we've got to turn things around. We've got to win this thing. The second half is about to begin. Best we come back and win this thing. And Game Time in Mzansi is exactly about that. So we said that, the pandemic has forced South Africans to pause and to rethink our loyalty to South African businesses, to South African products, and to South African services. That during hard lockdown, in the absence of imports, South African products carried us. Yes?
100%.
Yep. No, I'm nodding. And smiling. I think you're right. Absolutely. I'm not sure if you want me to dwell a little bit on that thought or on the execution itself, but I actually think
the execution imports, really. You do think imports.
All right. Should I go first? I feel like I've been speaking quite a bit, and my very gentlemanly colleague Siseki has just been nodding and smiling because he's polite, unlike myself. So, Siseki, I'll let you go first. So, just because you're a nicer person than me.
Okay.
Thanks, Ismail. Look, I think the one thing I'll start with the execution. I thought the ad was really great because one, it showed South Africans where the majority of South Africans are. Public transport is how I think about 60% of South Africa's workforce go to work every day. And then the switch in the music when the tempo changed, it really just localized it for me, which really hammered home that I'm in South Africa and these are my people and so forth. And the other thing is we're a curious nation. So the lady looking over the shoulder and checking what the guy was looking at was, I thought that was quite a clever way of just bringing out the spirit of South Africans. But you're 100% right. This pandemic has created an interesting environment for us, and I think it's what's more important for all of us is how we plan to get out of it. And it's quite an apt campaign game plan, because a game plan in sporting terms is not just about the here and now, it's about sustaining for a longer period, what we would call a strategy as such. So I really do like the campaign, and it really did, it also gives you some thought, am I buying local? Am I supporting local? What more can I do? That sort of thing. I think it's so important, because I don't think any South African doesn't want to buy local. It's just that we do the easier thing, or we just don't check, that sort of a thing. So I think it was very well timed. I know I actually know the Good Group quite well, so I know they were shooting it while they were shooting it, and that was also a difficult time, I guess, also to shoot it, and I thought they captured everything well. So well done to you, Happy, and your team, for really reminding us of what is actually important and what will help South Africa going forward.
Thank you so much. And you talk about it was most probably one of a very difficult period to be able to the Good Group to be able to produce such amazing work. It really was, because I think we were not even on level 1. I think we were on 3. With tight restrictions. But the Good Group team will tell you it was even probably one of the coldest days of the year. When I say to you we were frozen, and I went on set, to be there with the team, to do this thing together. When I say we were frozen, I kid you not, like literally. but what came out of it. So I'll come to some of the points that you made, and I'd like to hear what your take is, Ismail.
Yeah, look, I agree with Siseki. I think beautifully shot, just incredible cinematography on a world-class level. I think that's what really struck me, is just the production value. So again, props to the agency. To shoot that sort of quality in a pandemic is truly remarkable. So well done to you, well done to the team. I kind of tried to analyze it almost frame by frame, just because it was so rich visually. And I think the idea of using Dr. John Kani, genius idea. He's got the voice of warm butter on toast. I'd love for him to read me a bedtime story at some point. Things. If he could just read me a bedtime story. I know, right? So I think, using him, genius move, beautiful opening shot. I think just the opening shot gives us a sense of where we are, not just geographically, we're talking to gritty urban setting, but the desolation of that opening shot shows the impact, the physical toll of the pandemic. And I think that really, in my mind, very quickly encapsulates the mood of the time, so brilliantly done there. What I really enjoyed as well is the cutback to the home setting, where there's soft lighting, there's a little bit of uncertainty, you see the individual. At that point, you're guessing it's Dr. John Kani just because of his voice, but we see the impact on the outside, and then we kind of move inward, and you see that impact in terms of the loneliness and the desolation in that sense. So I really like that as well. So just the use of lighting as well, very beautifully done. And I think where it gets real to what Siseki was saying, that the change in the music, where you see the closed business sign come up, and just that very powerful thing that says it's time for us to all pause and rethink the game plan. So to your point, referencing the president's words, very powerful, very emotive. I think there were two big kind of quotes from the execution that made me pause and think. And the one is that it said, "The world remembers us, even though we sometimes forget." And I think that's also a very powerful line that shows that sometimes as South Africans, we don't always think about the good work that's been done in the past. And then, there's this idea that your everyday decisions shape the future. So I think in a nutshell, I think very beautifully shot, powerful imagery. I think the wording is very good. The language is rich, it's powerful, and it's sparse. And so you don't have to say a lot to get across a very powerful message. And I think those are some very good points. I do have some views as well about what I think could have been done a little bit better, but I also think that we have to be aware that this was shot during the pandemic. This was shot in order to meet a time constraint of knowing that we've got economic recovery plans on the way, and I think in hindsight, though, there are a couple of things that we could tweak to the execution to make it even more powerful, and I think it's still possible to do that today in a way that's not going to necessarily blow your budget or add too much more to the spend that you've had to put behind what I imagine would be quite a substantial budget for that high production value. But I think, on the whole, the execution reminds me a little bit, and Siseki, I don't know if you know about this one, it was the 2012 Super Bowl commercial with Clint Eastwood, and it was for Chrysler, and the execution was, it's halftime, America, it's time to turn things around. And so it reminded me a little bit of that Chrysler ad from the Super Bowl from all those years ago. And I think it's apt. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's apt that in times of crisis, we turn to people like Clint Eastwood and Dr. John Kanye to rouse us, to inspire us. Where I think it could have been a bit sharper is knowing now that we've got this e-commerce platform that's been launched by Proudly South African that's meant to be showcasing local product, local entrepreneurs. I feel like that's something that we could still be linking in our communication. So in my mind, at least, I think of it as a chapter-based view of your marketing approach. So right at the beginning, you've got your, your context scene, but then you can imbue through Easter eggs little ways in which you can reference small business owners, actual real people, and also have links, for example, to their e-commerce platforms that they have on your site, which I know is kind of launched at this point, but I think it's in work in progress from my understanding. So I think my only comment and my feedback is, once the ad in its current form finishes, what changes for everyday South Africans? And I think the challenge is that during these trying times, what people need is a tangible reason to believe in a brand, in a purpose, in a country. And I think when you are able to provide those real tangible reasons to believe through links to your e-commerce platform, maybe by showcasing real South African entrepreneurs who've gone through the really hard times of losing their jobs, of losing their income, we tell a far more powerful, far more emotive story. So I think my build is very powerful, very beautifully shot. And can we, from now going forward, include little bits that actually add to the real tangible value of the economy and the people that serve the economy, particularly in the local micro industry space? I think that's something that we should keep in mind. So yeah, that's me. I feel like, very beautifully done. And yeah, absolutely, there's room to make it even more powerful.
Yeah. So I think you are on the money, both of you, James. And just to take on from what you've just some of the things that you've just said, Ismail, and positive criticism is a constructive, rather. Criticism is a good thing, and as a brand, it will it works in our favor to receive it with the spirit with which it is given to us. Yeah. And you need to know that our intention from the get-go was that the work that we put into this message or into this commercial in particular, that it must be editable. Sure. Because we believe that as we continue with our narrative as proudly South African, there's many bits and pieces that we can add onto it without messing the fundamental and the arching narrative of what we're trying to say, in the public domain. And you're quite right. You know, our intention was that the message must be very emotive. It must be an emotive message. It mustn't be one where, where we tell people, do this, don't do that, do that, don't do that. I think we are, as a people, we are overwhelmed with information. You know, from the time the pandemic started, when we are told, wash your hands, sanitize your hands, keep your social distancing, you know, don't breathe in the next 5 minutes. Don't move in the next, you know, and all of those things we were told to do or not to do were good things, which we must still do because the pandemic is still out. You know, and we were coming from a point where we're saying what we want to communicate is very emotive. We want to say that to South Africans that we stand in solidarity as a people, and we just want with this message to remind you as South Africans just how good we are. And you did allude to a line in the commercial, Ismail, that says that you know, at times the world remembers us what we sometimes forget as South Africans, and that's really what we want to say. And very nice inputs around the issue that, you know, maybe going forward we can amplify the presence of our online e-commerce platform, which is RSA Made. It is in the commercial, but just teeny-weeny, you know, it doesn't quite, if you don't know that we have something called RSA Made, which houses strictly locally made products, you might just miss it as a consumer, you know. So it gives us time to you know, to go back and work on it and really amplify it even more. So yeah, you know, so that's great input that you're giving us to really just you know, going forward using the same kind of narrative to make the presence of the e-commerce platform a lot bigger in the commercial. But I also liked some of the comments. I think Isiseki, you also said that, I mean, you guys spoke about the cinematography, the music, you know, the scenery, the, you know, and I don't know if you noticed that we were placing Dr. John Kani as the president, because we also took advantage of the reality of the country now, that, you know, every time we have that family meeting. Remember the family meeting with the president?
Yes.
Every
when Daddy calls us.
Yes. You know, you're gonna hear fellow South Africans or fellow, you know, and we wanted to latch on to that because we know that when that happens, you know, we all sit still, you know, to listen to what the president had to say, because you know, I mean, none of us could have. Nothing could have prepared us as South Africans for this period that we're going through, the world over, for that matter. You know, not only South Africa. So we wanted to take advantage of that. And what are your thoughts, Siseki, around the actual message? So say now you do not know who the good group is, you're a consumer who's sitting in lounge one day, and then the commercial is on television. Does it speak to, did you resonate with the message? Did you resonate with what the, you know, did the message speak to you as a South African?
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, I only saw the commercial. I saw the commercial before I knew it was the good group. So it did speak to me, and to the point that I made earlier, what I loved most about it is that it's a scenario that you can place yourself in. It made me feel like these are South Africans in a South African everyday context. And that for me was very strong, to the point of what Ismail said about the vendors. You know, it's really relatable more than anything. And I think you made the point earlier that the hard thing about creating an ad like this was to appeal to everybody. So So I think that did that. It created a feel of South Africa for me. And like I said, it was a great reminder, more than anything, that I should think local before anything else. So that definitely was a good reminder for me, and so the message definitely did resonate. I think that the hard thing is going to be how do you keep it top of mind? I think that's going to be the real challenge going forward for all of us. It's not. I don't actually think it's a largely South African product. It's a South African product. It's a South African problem.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, because it's about how do we keep that message alive. Because it's one thing to have such a powerful message, and then 3 months down the line, it's in your inbox and everybody moves on and it's all over. It's too much of a powerful message for us to let it slide.
Yes.
That's not an option.
Yes.
And I agree with you when you say it's not a proudly South African message. It's not our message. It's the message of the people. So how do we get the private sector, the public sector, community and government to own this message? We all have to own. I feel like, remember the times of the MTN advert, Ayoba, where it didn't matter who you were, young and old, in the burbs or in the rural areas, it didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Resonates. You know it. You know what it is.
If you came across anybody anywhere in any province and you said Ayoba, everybody knew the connection. Between the two brands, and that's what we are hoping one day, that the Game Time message lives even beyond the pandemic. It's a pity that we may look all fleshy on social media platforms, and I'm sure you've gone in to see what else we do as proudly South African and all of that. But our pockets are very tiny, our marketing pockets, because in an ideal world, this message should be on television every night, which it is now on SABC, but it ends at the end of December, so that's not enough. A large audience is on other channels like your multi-choice ETV and all sorts of things, which is where we were when we launched it in July until the end of August. But that's not enough. We should be on radio. We should be on above the line and below the line, through the line, everywhere. But it takes a collective to really just do justice to this message. But Ismail, I also want to, I don't know if you picked up in the commercial, in the message, that what Proudly South African is intending to do is to showcase our businesses as South Africans, South African businesses, big or small. And there's a combination there. So you did see a vendor in the commercial. You did see a baker, opening his business in the morning. We did see a small boutique, bespoke shop where the lady is going to, walks into the shop to go buy something. But we did see the big buildings in Sandton, that to demonstrate the kind of economy that is represented by South Africa. Proudly South African products is not just the little things like your beads and your, you know what I mean? We're not saying that local is lacking. We're not saying that South African products and services are great, because shame, let's feel sorry for South Africans. Shame, man. No, we're saying that because we know we've got good quality products that are affordable and that are accessible. And in the commercial, you do see that does come across, because you see the buildings in Sandton, which is the economy of this country. But you also see shops in Alexandra. You also see businesses downtown. Do you think that was a nice mixture to try and tell the story as realistic as we possibly could?
Yeah, look, I think that's something that struck me is one of the most powerful scenes in the commercial was the like millisecond that I got to see a Kasi vendor. It was a township corner shop, but it was there for maybe like a split second. And,
Yeah.
I absolutely picked up the kind of glittering steel structures and glass of Santon. And I love that you juxtaposed it. I think maybe it's just that it got lost because it was so tiny and so minuscule. And I think maybe and I think it's good to know that that was the intention. So I'll be 100% honest. Did I pick up that the intention was to show a juxtaposition between small, medium, large businesses? I didn't necessarily get that because I don't think they got equal weighting. Or maybe a better way to put it is the context of that particular individual who is going to be engaged in that economy, whether it's the formal economy or the informal economy, maybe didn't come through as strongly as it could have. But the fact that that's what the intention was, I think, is good. And like I said earlier, it's something that we can build off. And really, that's my point, that if you've got this linear journey structure that allows you to tag and tap into different economies and different businesses, whether it's small, medium, or large, you are able to then amplify the stories of those businesses, of those entrepreneurs, and it becomes far more powerful and far more emotive when you get it from that perspective. So, yeah, I'd say that, it's good that it's there. I think, to Saseki's point, the main challenge is going to be how do you keep top of mind going forward. And yeah, I think there are ways that you can do that using just social media, cutting the ad down, having maybe one or two iterations of focusing on different scenes that talk to a particular scenario that you think could be amplified at that particular point in time. So yeah, I think absolutely the main challenge is top. Again, Saseki, I think you used a very good word, which I think is the point of the commercial, which is to be a reminder. I think sometimes we fixate on what's foreign, what's international, because there is an aspirational value that we attach to that. But being reminded of the powerful ripple effect that one small action can have by buying local, I think is very powerful. So, yeah, I like that idea of
Yeah, and I mean, sorry to jump in, Ismail. I think another thing which I liked that you just said now is, which I think Sis Happy mentioned later, that they're going to still edit some of the video, some of the commercial to make it fit for purpose, but cutting it down, then you can add your e-commerce platform on social media because it's easier to click through. You know what I mean? Whereas if it's on TV, you can't click through anyways. Yeah. But I think that's an amazing add-on that can be added. I think the other thing, as you were talking earlier, Sisepi, I was thinking about 2010 World Cup. We all knew Bafana was never going to win the World Cup, but we were so proud that Bafana was South Africa was hosting the World Cup. It became a problem for all of us. We were the solution for it. And I think that's how I get this message. And, how do we then get all of South Africa to understand the problem and to understand that we are all the solution? It's not about, oh, okay, this person must buy local or this person must produce better quality. No, it's actually about being aware that this is the effect of you buying local. This is the effect of you supporting that business that yesterday, to add something here, yesterday we were doing an event for Vodacom Red, the South African Fashion Week pop-up at Mall of Africa. And we had 40 young designers there, But what I enjoyed about that event the most, great that everybody can showcase, but what Vodacom then did is they actually gave gift cards to each of the guests so that they buy local. So now it's a step to say, you're not just invited to this amazing event. No, here, support them. So now you get to trial the clothes basically for free. And hopefully that creates a repeat purchase. We've already received a wonderful messages back of people and their experiences. So now people go, you know what, the quality is actually good. The people are good. They treated me well. So those are the advantages. But if we never trial, we're never going to get there. You know, so the easiest thing is to buy what we know or buy what we see more of. You know, to your point about not having the big media budgets of some of our conglomerates who work in South Africa. But I think it's just about being self-aware that almost everything that we buy internationally or from an international company can be sourced locally.
Yeah, and it is, and I think we'll be halfway there. The minute we get as South Africans to understand the domino effect there is when you make a local purchasing decision, right? It's a domino effect because, you know, it's the value chain behind that product. And because our reality is that we all know someone, guys. We all know somebody who's looking for a job today. We all know somebody who's been maybe looking for the longest time, and it's got nothing to do with COVID, because the reality is that even before COVID, our economy was already in trouble. And it's about the fact that, you know, when we make our local purchasing decision, it may just be benefiting. That purchasing decision might just benefit somebody in a big way. I mean, Proudly South African works with different industries, and there's a current campaign that we're involved in called, I don't know, maybe you've come across it on social media platforms, called Thank You, called One Meal, Many Thanks. And it's directly linked to the hospitality industry because, you know, the argument during lockdown was that my industry is affected, has been affected the most, and then somebody else would say no, but it's my industry that has been affected the most. And my argument has always been, it's not industries, human beings have been affected the most, because there's no industry without human beings. It's the people behind each industry that has been affected the most. For One Meal, Many Thanks, it's about when we got to lockdown level 1, and we could go out to restaurants and so be cautious. We could go down to, go to hotels and lodges and all of that. It's about demonstrating, which speaks to your point, to say that, it's about the one meal that you buy today in a restaurant that could keep 4 or 5 people behind the making of that meal employed. Because it's not just the plate of food you get on your table. It's about the fact that the food came from somewhere, from a farmer somewhere, and from the farm, it was put in a truck, to be delivered to the restaurant. So there's logistics behind it. Then it got to the restaurant. In the kitchen, there's a cook, there's a waiter, there's somebody who cleans. There's a whole domino effect, and One Meal, Many Thanks is about that the meal that you've chosen to buy today has kept somebody in their job, and that must be the attitude, because like I said, everybody knows somebody who's looking for a job. It could be somebody close to you, can be a neighbor, a relative, a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a sister, somebody. And it ceases to be a government responsibility, right? We can't sit and say, Ismail, well, the government, we have to hold them accountable. That is for sure. But we can all play our part in the purchasing decisions that we make. And generally, how do you feel about local brands? I mean, we sell proudly, so that the Proudly South African narrative is a lifestyle. It cannot be a lifestyle. Honestly, it can't not be. It's about. I see behind you, Ismail. There's a whole bookshelf. I'm assuming there could be a few books there that are written by local writers, authors. It's about those clothes that we are wearing, Siseki. It's about cars that are assembled locally, and a BMW 3 Series is made here at home, and then we export it. Nissan NP200, NP300. Polo Vivo is a local car. then we get into, at home, the appliances you have, the flat screen television, Hisense makes that. The fridges and the microwaves, DeFi, South Africa does that. Let alone the food that we have in our cupboards. I mean, most of us grew up with brands from the likes of Unilever. This is at the risk of exposing my age. Who would forget brands from Nestle South Africa, Ree Coffee, Cremora, it's not inside, it's on top. Kit Kat, 2-minute noodles, all of those are local products. What is the message? What are we saying to South Africans, really?
I just want to jump in there. I think you make a good point about how sexy a South African brand can be. And I think that's the challenge, is generally when the public has a perception about a local brand, I wouldn't use the word sexy, it'd probably be of utilitarian value, it's quite functional. I think recently, particularly in the clothing industry, there have been some really sexy brands that have come out. I promise you, I'm not a paid representative or an ambassador for this brand, but we do work in the youth space. And the sneaker brand that's just come out, I think just very inspiring story. The fact that what they've managed to do is create a whole economy around creating South African sneakers that are not just beautifully made, but have an aspirational quality that young people actually want to buy into. So I think it's not just celebrating what's come before, but I think we need to shine a light on the new products and brands that are up and coming that are actually having a positive effect on the people that are part of it. So like you said, you spoke about that value chain. In this instance, I think there's a new plant that's just opened up in Pretoria that's making roughly like 20,000 new sneakers a day. And, people are employed as a result, people look good. And I think, they've managed to put South Africa not just on a broader platform locally, but on the world stage.
Ismail?
I'm still here.
Oh, sorry.
I was waiting for you to say something like, that's amazing. I had no idea. Let me engage you on this brilliant thing you just spoke of.
Yeah. And I like the whole thing about that sneaker factory in Pretoria, I think you said. Can you imagine, and for us, the interest there is the job creation element of it. Because you have a full-on factory with many people working in the factory, but the value chain is massive, which then translates into keeping people employed, jobs, sustaining the jobs and creating even more jobs. Because it's the fabric that you need for the sneakers. It's the everything, the raw material that you need. It's the somebody has to design the look and the feel. Somebody has to source the shoelaces, for a lack of a better word. Somebody has to think of the packaging of the product when it's done. Somebody needs to think of the logistics to be able to supply to different retail stores. And when you get to the retail stores, somebody needs to think of the merchandising to make it look pretty on shelf. So when you as a consumer walks in, it's not just a pile of boxes, it looks attractive and visually appealing. So it's a whole ripple effect, where there's a job creation element to it, but there's a job, there's a sustainability element to it. So which speaks to what we seek to do, that we don't just say local is lekker, we demonstrate to you what it means when we say local is lekker. We are a member-based campaign, and many of the companies that I alluded to earlier on, big and small companies, in the context of what we're talking about now, we've got local designers who are part of the movement. We call it the buy local movement. But we make sure that those products that they manufacture and they produce, we do our due diligence to make sure we vet the business, we vet the product. Because it's one thing for us to jump up and down and say support local, buy local. Local is like it, but the product has to be good quality product. You can't wear the sneakers today, Ishmael, and then tomorrow things fall apart. So if we look at four things, the one is criteria. The one criteria is local content. So we're not dealing with the middleman who imports the sneakers from Asia and then markets the product as proudly South African. So 50% or more local content is what we're looking into. The product has to be made by South Africans with their own hands to benefit South Africans. And then the second criteria is good quality. The product has to be good quality product, and we go through the checks and the balances. The third one is environmental standards. In the course of doing business, how do you dispose of your waste? Are you reckless? Are you putting people in danger? And last but not least is that a company or a business has to conform to labor laws of South Africa. So for you to, and once you tick all of those boxes, then you have carte blanche to use the logo and market your brand as a proudly South African brand. So I'd like to. I'm going to have an offline with you, Ismail, because I want to know about the sneaker factory in Victoria. We've got to visit them and see the great things that they do rather as a business. And as we nearer going towards the end of our discussion, rather, time flies, right? I mean, it's after 7 already. Yes, we started around 20 past 6, but it's almost 20 past 7. But what is your taking into consideration every day? I mean, we jumped from the commercial to the message of the commercial to the look and feel, the tone and manner. We spoke about how we could improve on the commercial going forward, that it's editable, we could add on to it. We spoke about what it means to be proudly South African. Not that, it's got nothing to do with the fact that you were born in South Africa. There's more to it than that. It's about, playing your part as a South African to be able to be the difference that you want to see. We all want to see a different South Africa. A South Africa that has jobs, a South Africa that is able to deal with poverty and inequality, a South Africa in today's terms that is able to deal with GBV, and in the context of light of the fact that today is the launch of the 16 days activism against women and children, and the launch of the 5-day mourning period for GBV. I'm of the view that we're done talking. We're done talking. We can't launch anything. We've got to be decisive. What are we going to do? That's all that matters now. So we captured the essence of what it means to be proudly South African, but driven by product and service and the economy. Because you do. So my question to you, Sisaki, is how do you then think that as a collective we're going to be able to help the president with his economy recovery plan?
So the slogan is we buy local, right? But I also think we need to sell local. And what I mean by that is I think we need to also be better at selling ourselves. We need to be proud of what we are selling. I think a lot of the times, and I almost think it's an inherent thing as South Africans, we are too humble. So to Ishmael's point about this amazing sneaker brand is we have this thing of, yes, I make sneakers, but it is maybe not the same as a Nike, whereas actually it probably is, So we need to be proud of what we're doing and proud of what we're selling and proud of the guys around us who are doing those things, And I think that's why I referenced the 2010 World Cup. It was the sense of pride that actually brought us together. The Springboks won. Sorry, I I'm a big sportsman, so a lot of my references to sport. The Springboks won. Nobody cared whether you supported them before. Nobody cared that 20 years ago it was a very different Springboks. You know what I mean? So that the sense of pride that we need to have within our country is the only thing that's going to help us change our country. You know, you talked about how do we become the difference. We can only be the difference if we want to be the difference. That's the reality. You know, I heard a story about a month ago from one of my colleagues. She was at a petrol station, and in the four-way stop next to the petrol station, some guy threw out stuff out of his window, just littered. And there was a car behind him. The guy in the car behind him got out of his car, picked up the stuff, threw it back into his window. You know, and then he walked back. No fight, no argument, no nothing. But that guy who threw it out, he knew he had done something wrong at the end of the day. And I think that's almost like, that's the spirit I want it to be. When you're not buying local, you must feel like you're doing something wrong, because the pride should tell you that this is the right thing to do. You know, so that for me is how we're going to change it. We need to be proud of who we are, the people who produce what we produce, and I also think it needs to be, everything that we do needs to have some sort of South African flavor, because that's the other thing that's going to make people take part in it. It's no use we recreate what's out there in the world. We need to be who we are first.
Wow. And I think you've just said something very, very powerful. You say that if you're not buying, and I'll just add selling as well, if you're not buying local, selling local, you must feel like you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you must feel like you something has to give. If you haven't done anything, and buying local can be every day. Purchasing, because in you know, for what it's worth, we all buy something every single day, whether it's something to drink, whether whatever the case may be, we all buy something every day. And if you haven't bought local, you must feel like you've done something wrong. Okay, or that's gonna stay with me. Okay.
Awesome.
That's gonna stay with Saudi South African. Ismail.
Yeah, look, I think Saseki said a lot of what I was going to say as well. But agree. I think people should be publicly shamed into buying South African. We should have a list of people and string them up if they don't buy local. That is a joke. We are not stringing anyone up. But I think, yeah, look, you're only going to get to that point by inspiring people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. So the first step to doing that is the commercial that you've just shot. You're trying to give some sense of purpose. You're trying to inspire people. The real work comes in now, where we give the tangible reasons to believe. So you've done the job of inspiring. You've got a rousing, emotive ad. Now you've got to do the hard work of going, well, when you buy this particular product, actually what you're doing is you're supporting X, Y, and Z. You're showing that ripple effect that we spoke of earlier. And I think that's the best way to inspire change, is by showing the tangible value that people can actually create by one small act. So I think absolutely this is a long-term engagement. It doesn't happen overnight, but we are on the right track, I think.
And my take from what you're saying now, Ismail, is that you are encouraging South Africans, because proudly South Africans rather, because we have a tangible voice. The buy local narrative sits with us from a mandate perspective, and I think you're challenging us, us as proudly South African, us as a people, the public sector, labor, community, government. To amplify our consumer education efforts.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
The long and short. Yeah, because if somebody understands the economic benefit there is when they choose to buy local, they'll have a bigger appreciation to do it. They'll then do it. It becomes second nature. which then speaks to what you said, Siseki, that then they feel not guilty. It's not about guilt. They feel like they've done something wrong if they do not buy local. Because if they don't do it, if we don't do it, who must do it for us? Who must take care of our economy as a country?
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, gents.
Thank you.
It was really enlightening to chat to you. The tips that you gave us are well received. The PR team and the marketing team is somewhere here in the mix, and it is discussions like these that help us be better at what we do, because this message is not ours. It's a message for everybody. Everybody must claim the buy local narrative, and the insights and the and the tips and the that you have given us as a campaign will take us places. So I want you to sit one day in your living room and you see something with you and you say, aha, so they do listen.
Always happy to help here to chat if you'd like to chat about anything going forward. But all the best to you and the organization and the brand. I think you're doing some good work and ultimately you're helping the economy move along. So power to you guys.
Thank you so much, Ismail. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Thank you, gents. Thank you for your time. We don't take it for granted. Thank you. You could have been having nice dinner now with your families. Here you are on a chat platform with me. But thank you so much. You really, really greatly appreciate it. Bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Cheers.
Have a great day.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.